Hello and welcome to Hispanic Agenda, Washington's only bilingual news program. I'm Alejandro Negron. Thank you for watching. On today's agenda, the very conservative view on abortion in Latin America that the UN says prevents protection by the state of a 10-year-old rape victim in Paraguay who's 5 months pregnant. But first, dreamers serving in the military. Representative Ruben Gallego is urging the House of Representatives to keep an amendment that he offered that would allow immigrants who qualify for deportation relief under President Obama's executive actions to serve in the U.S. military. The amendment passed in the House Armed Services Committee with a bipartisan majority. But a number of Republican lawmakers are fiercely opposing Gallego's amendment. Let me welcome this week's roundtable. This is our first topic. Our roundtable panelists from LA's La Opinión Washington correspondent María Peña. Alberto Avendaño is the editor-in-chief of El Tiempo Latino, and this is a publication of the Washington Post, and Claudia Curiel is a reporter with Telemundo Washington. Welcome all to the show.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Very interesting topic. María Peña, I want to first start with the amendment itself. Does it dictate policy to the Pentagon? Is this mostly symbolic? My understanding is that it merely recommends to the Secretary of Defense to consider dreamers for military service.
Exactly. There are several things here that need to be stated as facts. Number one, his amendment is only encouraging the Pentagon to review the possible admission of dreamers into the Army. So it's non-binding. It doesn't dictate policy. It's just merely encouraging the Pentagon to review it, which the Pentagon's claims it already is doing.
So this basically doesn't force the Pentagon or the Secretary of Defense to change any policy whatsoever. This is just a recommendation.
And what it does
Look
basically, you got to keep in mind the political context. My understanding is that basically Democrats who are supporting this amendment basically want to out the extreme right from the GOP.
And force them into a debate that they don't want to have.
They don't want to have it, and they've already made clear that they don't want to have it. Senator McCain already said that when the bill is going to be voted on either, sometime this week. So when it gets to the Senate, Senator McCain, who was initially part of the Gang of Eight that created the immigration reform in 2013, he's already said on the record that he's not going to allow any immigration-related clauses in the bill, provisions, because the bill is about military spending and not an immigration bill for dreamers.
Alberto Avendaño, but at the same time, we have dreamers serving, and we have even undocumented immigrants who have served in the U.S. military.
First of all, let me tell you something. Maria is our expert. She is there in the trenches. She is questioning politicians, which is her job. I agree with her. Congressman Gallego's amendment has no teeth, and yes, it is political posturing, and you mentioned it. And
on both sides?
It was, well, in this case, it's very clear what we have. We have an election ahead of us. We have a Cinco de Mayo declaration by Senator Clinton on immigration. Everybody is putting themselves positioning themselves to the issue. My question to Maria, if you allow me, Alejandro, is, isn't it true that undocumented immigrants are already part of the U.S. Armed Forces? And I think it is, and there is data out there, and I know people, veterans, who have told their story publicly, some of them, saying that they enrolled in the Army while they were undocumented.
I don't have any personal knowledge of any undocumented immigrants joining the Army. I do know that right now, by statute, Title 10, Section 504 of the U.S. Code gives the Secretary of Defense discretion to decide who he lets in or not in the Army based on national security interest.
All right, let me ask you about that, Claudia. Who can get into the military at the moment being a DACA recipient?
Right. Well, at this moment, there's a program called MAVNI that allows certain DACA beneficiaries to be part of the Army. And these are the ones that are considered to have critical abilities. These can be medical related, or these can be speaking critical languages, is what they call them. And these are Arabic, Asian languages, Swahili. It's a whole list, but it does not include Spanish. So there's also critics of this program that say this is deliberately excluding the immigrant population,
and of course,
Latino immigrant population.
And serving in the military for Latinos is a badge of honor. But there are also benefits that come with serving in the military. So what are dreamers who may be watching, parents of dreamers who may be watching at the moment, what are they missing out on?
Well, I think there's also people that are supporting this because they're saying, you know, these kids, they grew up here, they went to school here, and what better way to show that they belong to this country, that they're really American, that they're willing to give their lives to fight for the United States.
You would think, Maria and Alberto, that one way to win the hearts and minds of hardliners on immigration, specifically on the Republican side, would be through military service. But at the same time, look at the reactions that we're getting.
Because they're already labeling it wrongly, by the way, an amnesty bill, which is not at all. Because, you know, you got to remember that to qualify for DACA, either the 2012 version or the one that's pending in the courts right now, you have to meet a whole series of requirements. It's not like a free giveaway that the government is giving to you. You have to meet requirements. You know, they're weeding out people who have, you know, criminal records. They're weeding out people who have, you know, well, now the new one doesn't have an age limit, but there's a whole series of requirements that people have to go through, you know, criminal background checks, speak English, know history, the U.S. history, a whole series of requirements for them to qualify. You know, so it's not like a free giveaway. And yet Republicans, because they have to answer to their conservative base, they're considering it an amnesty bill, which
but
is not.
It's also gonna hurt them in the 2016 presidential. This is what Representative Mo Brooks had to say about it. It says it betrays Americans by encouraging the Secretary of Defense to hire illegal aliens.
Well,
I mean, this type of statement
this rhetoric
is going to hurt them later with Latino voters.
This is the traditional rhetoric. I mean, we are getting tired of it. I suppose their constituents aren't. That's why they keep repeating themselves. But my point here is that I say it again, I think the U.S. Army has stated many times that they need immigrants in order to fulfill the requirements, to really...
They're not meeting their recruiting quotas right now.
Correct.
And another argument that we should make that we haven't brought up yet is the fact that, you know, they have said that they want a diverse army that reflects America today, not the America from the 1950s or 40s, the America of today.
And you know, this isn't something completely new either, because there's even a representative that pointed out that from the era of the revolution, the United States has been accepting foreigners that are not citizens but are willing to give their lives for this country to fight for the United States.
Right,
so why not now?
5,000 non-citizens per year admitted into the Army.
All right, thank you. Thank you for a great discussion, and this is something definitely that we'll continue to pay attention to. When we come back, when we return, we'll discuss what many describe as draconian laws in Latin America regarding abortion. Plus, up-and-coming music star Jason Cerda, a native Washingtonian, joins us. Ladies, you don't want to miss that. Coming up on Hispanic Agenda here on News Channel 8. And welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. I'm Alejandro Negron. Next item on the agenda, the very conservative abortion laws in Latin America. The UN has been critical of Paraguay for denying a 10-year-old rape victim, who's 5 months pregnant, by the way, protection by the state. And in El Salvador, 17 women are currently serving prison terms for getting an abortion. Let me welcome back this week's roundtable from LA's La Opinión Washington correspondent Maria Peña. Alberto Avendaño is the editor-in-chief of El Tiempo Latino, and Claudia Curiel is a reporter with Telemundo Washington. I always forget to mention that El Tiempo Latino is a publication from the Washington Post,
Yes.
of the Washington Post.
You're forgiven.
All right. This is a very serious issue. This girl, 10 years old, is raped apparently by her stepfather. Now the UN says that Paraguay is not protecting the girl. How are they failing to protect her?
Well, you know,
Per the UN.
Paraguay and many other countries in Latin America have this law that even if the woman's life is at risk, she's not allowed to have an abortion. Even if the fetus is deformed, she can't. And even if she's a victim of crime like rape, it's totally illegal. And this is obviously going against lots of humanitarian issues here, especially in El Salvador. You have women that are scared to go to a hospital because of a complication with their pregnancy or because of a miscarriage, because they're scared they're going to end up 30 years in jail, and they're right.
And we're going to get to El Salvador in just a second, because as Claudia says, this is not only about abortion, also you can go to jail for having a miscarriage, and we'll get to that in just a second. Now, is abortion banned in Paraguay even in cases of rape? Even in
Yes.
cases of rape?
In many
think
countries,
so.
it's
That
not
I
only-
was talking
yeah.
before we started this show. I was telling to the ladies, listen, this is a very tough issue. It touches the emotional fiber of human beings out there. Many countries have this culture that is ingrained in their psyche, and then there are these laws, this legal structure that really provokes these outrageous situations. So what we are living now is when we cover the issue of El Salvador for obvious reasons, and saw that these women were treated like incredible criminals. I mean, like murderers, and they were condemned to 30 years in prison. I asked Claudia, and I said to her, well, I suppose it's not the same throughout the hemisphere. And she consulted this map that is completely incredible in terms of the hottest spots of this kind of laws. The whole hemisphere is the case in this kind
So
of
Latin America as a whole?
Not entirely, but most countries in Latin America, it is illegal in all circumstances. There are some that it is allowed if the woman's life is at risk or, certain circumstances like that. But many countries, it's not allowed under any circumstances.
Now, Maria, this has been changing, I guess, a little in El Salvador. Just a few months back, El Tiempo Latino did a story on this where there were 29 women in prison because of an abortion. Now that number's down to, I guess, 17, and there are human rights groups who have been paying a lot of attention to this and have been able to get some of these women out of jail.
And as a matter of fact, I believe that the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights has had to step into the issue because clearly there are a lot of human rights violations. You got to remember the context to this. A lot of the Latin American countries have a strong, Catholic tradition. And in general, the Catholic Church opposes abortion, and so you have this cultural, current that's driving a political issue as well. And the bottom line is, are women's human rights protected? And clearly the UN has said no, and clearly the Inter-American Commission has also said no. They're not being protected.
And that separation of church and state that we were so familiar with here in the U.S. is not necessarily the same in those Latin American countries.
This is affecting women on so many levels because, for example, in El Salvador, the #1 cause of death is suicide for young girls between the ages of 10 and 19 years old, half of which were pregnant. Because if they get pregnant and they don't want the child, they don't see any other option except spending half of their lives in jail or taking their own lives because their government doesn't offer any other option.
It is a tough
And in
issue.
the case of this lady that we covered, Carmen Guadalupe Vázquez Aldana, what it was disturbing to me is seeing that she is pardoned. So she's pardoned, and instead of 30 years, she just served 7 years. And pardon is not telling her that she didn't commit a crime.
Right.
All right, we have to go. Thank you so much, panel. We'll see you back hopefully next week. Thank you for watching. When we return, the high school graduation rate for Latinos and African Americans is improving. John Gonzalez with that report when we return to Hispanic Agenda here on News Channel 8. Welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. I'm Alejandro Negron. While more work needs to be done to address disparities when it comes to the education achievement of minorities, especially Latinos and African Americans, there's good news to report on that front. ABC 7 News' John Gonzalez has the story. John.
And this is good news, Alejandro. The graduation rates are higher than they've ever been, and some say it's thanks to Latino and African American students. We spoke to a teacher in Montgomery County who says she isn't surprised.
National graduation rates reached a record high of more than 81% in 2013, in part due to the increased rates among minority and low-income students.
I think definitely because of the ESOL programs that are offered in the school system now. They were not offered when I was young.
According to recent education statistics, over the past 10 years, 1.8 million additional students have graduated from high school.
I mean, there wasn't even an ESOL program, and now there is, and they reach out to the parents and the community and to let them know that help is there.
The high school graduation rate of Latino students is the fastest growing population of any race, increased 4.2% from 2011 to 2013. The rate of graduation among African American students has risen 3.7 percentage points.
The ESOL program works with the teacher. The ESOL teacher comes in the classroom and she either helps in a small group, the class, the students of ESOL, or she pulls them out and puts them in small group instruction. And the kids, I think, feel more comfortable because they get that more one-on-one help in small group instruction.
One reason for this improvement is the decline in dropouts. The share of Latino and African American students attending schools that were once labeled dropout factories has dropped below 15 and 20%.
Now, Alejandro, the news is not all good here. Declining graduation rates were found in states like New York, Illinois, and Arizona. Here at home, Maryland and Virginia rates are good, averaging 85%, 65% in D.C. Alejandro?
Thank you, John Gonzalez. When we return, he can sing, he can dance. Well, John can do all of those things, but I'm talking about Jason Cerda. He'll join us next, and he'll be with us on Sunday at Veterans Plaza in downtown Silver Spring for Telemundo's Fiesta de las Madres. You don't want to miss it. Coming up on Hispanic Agenda here on News Channel 8. Welcome back to Hispanic Agenda. He's a local kid, a native Washingtonian, and he embodies the new multicultural era of music, inspired by greats like Michael Jackson and rooted in his Puerto Rican and Dominican culture. Jason Cerda is climbing the charts with his fusion of pop and tropical sounds and moves. Jason Cerda, welcome to Hispanic Agenda. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
I've been watching you for many years. When you started as a dancer, it's really great, and we're very proud of you as a community to see you, reaching the heights that you've been able to do.
Thank you.
Lately.
It's awesome to be from DC, from Virginia, and be able to make it on the big market. So,
are you still here in DC?
I'm still here.
At least that's what the driver's license says.
The driver's license says that. I'm here. I travel all over the country, but I'm still here, yeah.
And you're going to be on Sunday joining us for Fiesta de las Madres.
Yep.
This is Telemundo's celebration of Mother's Day,
yep.
Downtown Silver Spring at Veterans Plaza. We'll talk about that in just a second. But let's talk a little bit about your career. Top 10 on the tropical Billboard charts for your single Al Lado Mío. This is what I find very interesting. Being a radio man myself, you're not represented by a music label.
Independent.
You're independent. Yep. That's very hard to do. How'd you do that?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of credit I have to give to the song itself. I wrote it, and my engineers and the producers that worked on it did an amazing job, and it was something that the music kind of just spoke for itself. The energy, I think, it was right timing because it was around the World Cup when I released the song, and it just kind of caught fire with. It was one of those songs that you could just turn on in your car and jam out to, or just be in the club and party to, and I think it was just the right timing for that kind of song, and people loved it.
I mean, just as I was teasing your segment, I was feeling really good because I was, listening to that music in my ear. So congratulations.
Thank
now,
you.
Al Lado Mío is the single. This was written in Spanish.
Yeah.
And then you were asked to make a new version, a bilingual version.
So I made a bilingual version because all the radio stations I went to, on the English side, were like, man, we would love to play this if it had some English in it. And that was when Bailando Enrique was really popular. So I was like, yeah, of course, we did it. So I went and I switched out some of the lyrics, made them in English, and it, snowballed into an even bigger. That's how I got into the top 20 on the Billboard charts.
Not easy to do. Yeah. Now, you're also, and ladies, you might want to listen to this, per Inside Edition, you are one of DC's sexiest bachelors. And in the control room, they keep telling me that they're probably right. So you're still single, you're still available? You're looking for?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll find love.
I have a girlfriend. Her name's Music, and that's all.
Right.
That's all I'm focusing on right now, man. Music takes up all my time, so I don't really have time for anything else right now.
Now, let's get back to your performing career. So where have you been able to go?
Everywhere, honestly. We've done all over the United States. The furthest I've been is Japan. I toured in Japan.
Nice. With who?
By myself, I headlined. I had our own tour. I had a Japanese artist opening for me, but I did. This was 2011. So
how did it go?
It was amazing. Amazing. Japanese people. It was like I still brag about how amazing that country is. I mean, people love you. Once you have a fan there, you have a fan for life. So it was amazing.
So the fan base is really.
It's great. It's great.
Supportive.
Very passionate. Very passionate. I'm Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and I've been obviously here in the United States.
And you've toured or performed with artists such as Ludacris, Nelly, Becky G, Camila, La Arrolladora, Banda El Limón.
Yeah,
all of
everywhere.
those artists are such different music genres.
Yeah.
And you fit in with all of them.
Yeah. I think what it makes me unique is I have my style of music is very. It can adjust. It can adjust to everything. You know, I have slow songs, I have upbeat songs, I have bachatas, I have boleros, I have a little bit of everything, and then the dancing kind of brings it all together full circle, which at the end of the day, people want to be entertained, and I think I bring that to the table.
Absolutely. And when I first met you years back, you were a dancer. You weren't singing yet. So people should really, when he shows up live on stage, it's really a show. You don't want to miss it. This Sunday, you're going to be at downtown Silver Spring at the Veterans Plaza with Telemundo for Fiesta de las Madres. What are we going to see there?
You're going to see a lot of dancing. I'm bringing a live band with me. So it's the first time I'm doing a live band show in DC. Because every time I've traveled, I've always had live band outside of DC. So I'm doing live band for DC.
Nice.
It's the world premiere of my new single, Color Favorito. So I'm going to perform it for the first time here at home in front of my hometown crowd. So I'm excited about that.
All right, so you don't want to miss it. Jason Cerda this Sunday at Veterans Plaza, downtown Silver Spring. Also, you'll get to meet telenovela stars such as Juan Soler and Cynthia Olivarria at Fiesta de las Madres. Jason, thank you so much, and wish you all the success in the world.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, please check out our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. Tune into Telemundo Washington for the Spanish version of this program, and be sure to join us again next week here on News Channel 8. Have a great weekend, and thank you for watching. Until next week.